Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we're going to talk about what we mean when we say, are you playing small? I hate this phrase. Are you playing small? Stop playing small. People say it, and the best advice they can give you is play bigger, go for your dreams. That is not a strategy. That is, I don't even know what that is. It's terrible advice. In order to go for your dreams and play bigger, you actually need to understand the difference between playing small and playing big and understand what it means to you uniquely. That's what I'm going to unpack in this video. That's what we're going to solve for. Let's frickin' go. I've really thought about this, and I reckon there are 3 different ways that you can play small or play big. I'm going to tell you what they are, and then we're going to get into each one. So the first way that you can play small versus big is whether you're really gritty or whether you're campaign-led. We'll come back, I'll explain it. The second way is whether you're a passive thinker or a directive thinker. Again, I shall unpack. And then the third way is whether you're action-focused or outcome-focused. As I share these, I want you to think of examples where you might be on the small side of the playing field, examples of you doing that, thinking in that way, behaving in that way, and then think about what would it mean to flip and get onto the other side of this card where you're actually playing big. And this is not an empty idea, oh, play big, do what I did. No, I'm going to give you very specific examples for each one so you can actually do this, okay? So the first one, gritty versus campaign-led. Now, let me tell you this, I'm a massive fan of grit. Grit in business is waking up and going, oh no, I'm not making enough money. Let me quickly come up with an offer. Gritty. Gritty would be, oh no, I'm not reaching enough people. Let me go networking 10 times this month and correct that. Gritty. Gritty would be, oops, I sold more than there are hours in the day. Let me get up early, work late, give up this weekend to get back on top. Gritty as Now, there's a real version of this grittiness that is practical and useful for getting off the ground, getting out of a hole. But if you do that compounded over 10 years, you will play small. That is playing small. So we contrast that with what it means to play big. I think all of us have a vision, a dream, an outcome for our lives. We see ourselves doing something big, like, being that big speaker or changing the way people feel here or having our name recognized in that way. We've all got a dream. It might even be retiring our family, traveling the world. Everyone's dream's unique. But then we wake up and we don't do anything associated with that dream other than fantasize. So we're like, I want to be a world-class speaker. Let me build websites over here because that's what I'm really good at. I want to write these books and be a world famous writer. Let me write email copies for other people first because that's what's going to get me paid. Can you see that there's a balance here? And I think being gritty is often the answer for a lot of people right now today. It just can't be your life forever. So let me explain what I mean by that. When I start working with people in the beginning, they often come to me to make more sales, market their business, grow, all that good stuff. And I actually get them off the campaign stuff and into the grittiness. Wait, Lisa, you just said we had to be more campaign-led. Yes, but wait. I get them off campaign and into grit because social media has sold them the dream of the big life and hasn't told them how to get there. And worse, salespeople sell you using their skills and preferences, and they don't think about how to adapt that for you and your skills and preferences. Just so happens I'm a good speaker. I'm not going to lie about it. I was given that gift at birth, and it was developed by going to boarding school, by being a military kid, moving house every 2 years. My parents are hilarious, they're entertainers. Of course I've turned out to be a chatty little tinker who likes to be at the front of a room sharing stories. It's the way I was raised. If you said to me, Lisa, the way you sell is using data. You're going to collect a spreadsheet of leads and you're going to follow those leads religiously. I'm done. I don't want that. I don't want anything to do with that. But if I bought from somebody who was brilliant at selling in that way and then tried to follow their methodology, we'd all be in trouble. Instead, that salesperson needs to go, Lisa, I see you enjoy the sound of your own voice. Might I suggest that you make content in order to make sales? And I'll say, wow, what an astute observation. How can we do more of that? Can you see? So it would be wrong of me to say to you, in order for you to make sales, you must stand at the front of a room. You must make content. I don't say that. I say, in order for you to make sales, you must reach new people. So for any of my clients going, she does say that. No, I don't. I say, you've got to reach new people. It all works. I don't care how you do it. You could do it any way you like. I just know that if you share your ideas by making content, if you meet people by going networking, if you use ads to extend your reach, I know that stuff works. But I also know pay-per-click works. I know business development works. Doesn't matter. It all works. The honest answer is you've got to find what works for you. So if we pull this back to what does that mean for playing small versus playing big? Playing small is where you wake up every single day for the next 5 years of your life and you constantly wake up and go, oh no, I'm not making enough money. Quick, hey guys, 3 spots available for my coaching. Oh no, I've oversold and I can't deliver it all. I know, I'll get up at 5 every day and I'll work all my weekends. If you do that every day, that is playing small. Playing big is saying, for example, I'm going to hire somebody. I'm going to hire somebody to edit my videos, to really help me grow this business. Someone who's brilliant at YouTube, just describing my video editor who's editing these videos. That's who I'm going to hire. And then you say, right, but I can't afford to hire. So what I'm going to do is put my foot on the gas and be really gritty and make loads of sales and collect all the money and add loads of value to people. And I'm going to use that cash to hire somebody so that I can then step back and move on to the next part of my plan. This is why I've called it gritty versus campaign. Gritty is waking up and thinking, what do I need to do today? Whereas the campaign is thinking, what is my plan? Like, what are the projects in order? And even more specifically, it's thinking about where you want to be in 5 years' time and thinking about what you have to do in order to make that happen. So if I want to be a speaker and every day I'm editing websites, those two things don't tally, do they? But if I want to be a speaker and you can actively see me out speaking, getting better, working on a TEDx, for example, developing my speaking style, working on my content, getting on bigger and bigger stages, learning how to run ads, command an audience, test different stories, and I'm editing websites, then you can say, yes, I see that she is working towards her dream. That's playing big versus playing small. You got it? The second one is my pet difficulty. This one is, am I a passive thinker or a directing thinker? Now, this is really hard because until you know, you don't know. A passive thinker is somebody who lets things happen to them and uses phrases like, you'll know if you're a passive thinker, you'll say things like, it's not fair because, I'm struggling because that person has this advantage. The thing is, Lisa, I have this challenge and therefore. Passive thinkers are people who go day to day and they actually let their energy and emotions rule their day. Now, I've got to be really careful here because energy is everything. But I will tell you this really honestly. I am prone to depression. I don't know what it is in me, dopamine, whatever, but it's really easy for me to sink into depression. And depression for me feels like, don't want to get out of bed, don't know what I'm doing, don't want to be in business anymore. And I feel that quite often, but it's not real. It's just a habit response when I'm really outside of my comfort zone or when I'm really overwhelmed. The passive thinker in me would go, clearly these thoughts and feelings are everything, they're valid. I'd let it colour my whole day and then I would take actions from that point of view. Oh my God, hello self-sabotage, hello procrastination, hello playing small. The directive thinker in me does something very different. Instead of feeling it and reacting it and being in it, the directive thinker in me goes, I see what's happening here. That version of me observes what the feeling is, puts it into words, and then thinks about the options. And I'm not saying this lightly, guys. This is one of the hardest things to do because feelings, energy, chemicals, oh my God, are they powerful? But this is why you might see me going to the gym. This is why I get up at 5. Do you think I want to get up at 5? I do not want to get up at 5, guys. All I want to do all day is watch the Tom Cruise movies, the James Bond movies, the action adventure, spy hero stuff. I want to watch that all day, but I want my dreams more. And sometimes if I find myself feeling overwhelmed or trapped or unable to do it out of my comfort zone, I'll seek comfort. And that's a very passive response. The active response would be, get up at 5, Lisa, do the difficult thing first. Lucy said to me the other day, why do you keep saying to me, I've done the hard thing, I've done the hard part of my day? What do you mean by that? And what I mean by that is as hard as this is, in the hours of 5 to 8 in the morning, I do the worst job in my list. I'm sorry if any of you have had an email off me at 8 a.m. Finished it. That was the hardest part of my day. And then the rest of the day is easy. That's a lie. The rest of the day is less hard and it's more appealing because I did the hardest thing when I was still half asleep and not fully conscious of the pain that I was going through. Another example of directing your thinking would be, for me, I don't feel like I have enough dopamine, so I go to the gym, I run, I think about things I'm looking forward to. So if I say, I'm going to go and watch the new F1 movie this week, I'm so excited to watch it. Lisa, you're going to watch it on Friday. Get your work done so that you can watch that movie. If I'm struggling, I will think about how good it's going to feel to sit in the cinema, to have a whole box of popcorn, to enjoy that movie. I literally can't wait. And thinking about it, I can feel that release of dopamine. Dopamine isn't just released when we get the reward. Most of the dopamine is released as we think about and move towards the goal. That's why when you actually do the thing that you wanted to do, it doesn't feel as good as you thought it was going to feel. It's the desire that released the dopamine. And that comes from evolution, because our brains wanted us to stay motivated to move towards that juicy red fruit. But when we've got it, what do we need the dopamine for? Have the sugar, enjoy that instead, right? So I often think about what I'm looking forward to, why this is worth it, what's coming up that I'm excited about, because I know it releases dopamine, and that helps motivate me to do the work. Another example of passive versus directive thinking would be if somebody said to me, Lisa, I don't want to go networking because it's very taxing for me, so I can't think of any other way to market my business. Help. If they genuinely mean help and we come up with an alternative and they do the alternative, fine. What I find a lot of people doing when they're not making a huge amount of money is they're focused more on the thing they can't do. They're focused more on the block rather than finding a way through it. So I wouldn't say to everyone, go networking. What I would say is you have to find a way to reach new people. You have to find a way to build your network and build new relationships. It can be search engine optimization, meta ads, YouTube videos, networking, business development. It doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter what people are trying to sell you. It all works. If you're reaching new people, adding value, and your offers are clear, you will make sales. The problem is most people are passively saying, I can't do it. I was never trained in. My disadvantage is, and you won't get anywhere because that becomes your whole story. And I learned this from a video I watched by Tony Robbins about 10 years ago. He said, stop calling it my depression, my depression. He said, if it's yours, you'll never give it up. And one of the biggest changes I made years ago when I was really heavily depressed was I had to stop saying my depression, I am depressed. And I had to start saying things like, the feelings I'm experiencing, you might call them depression. It's more that I was experiencing it. It wasn't who I was. And so if you can create that distance and say, I wasn't really taught about money, or, I didn't really go to school and learn this, or it's occurred to me now that I don't really have the skills that I need in marketing and sales. So here's what I'm doing. And let me tell you now, you're not going to want to do those things. They're hard. They make you feel incompetent and they'll put you outside of your comfort zone. Hi. Welcome to entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the least passive thing you will ever do in your life. And the hard thing about it is there's no one behind you going, here are your objectives. Here's what I expect in a day. Oh, I see you're struggling. Let me help. No, that's what happens when you're on your own at home. You go in a slump and you lose the afternoon, the week, the month. What I'm trying to do is get people to be more observant about how they feel, think about what triggered it, and get them to stop focusing so much on the negative thing, the lack, the reason, blame, all of that, and get them back in the driving seat and ask, what are your super skills? What are your strengths? What is it about you that we can build on? What do you already know? What is it in you that we can build on, that we can leverage? If you get in your power of knowing what you're good at, what comes naturally to you, and you use that and find a way to support yourself through the difficult thing, get back into active and not passive. Playing small is to sit in that passive voice, that passive thought process and say, this happened, therefore I can't. My thinking is this and I shall act from that place. In order to change your life, you literally have to think thoughts you've never thought before. You've got to do actions you've never been able to do before. And you've got to build behaviours that you've never been able to maintain before. That's the literal definition of changing your life. Changing your life isn't changing your life. Changing your life is changing who you are as a person. And the only way to do that is to actively direct those thoughts, those actions, and those behaviours. So reflect, what is the playing small version of that? And you might ask, what thoughts do I loop on? What ideas do I just accept as being a rule? What conditioning am I operating from? What thought process do I go through when I'm making a difficult decision? Is that the best thought process? Are they the best thoughts? Am I coming at this from the best energy? Or is this another way? Playing big would actually be, I've got a big project and I'm scared about doing it. That's okay. Let me see if I can go to the gym this morning and get the energy going. Let me put some things in my diary to look forward to so that I can persevere in this project. Let me join a training program. Let me get a coach. Let me get someone to hold me accountable, to hold me to a higher standard, because I don't want to be that person that I was. I want to be the person I know can hold the result that I'm seeking. That's the difference between playing small and playing big in terms of your thinking. The last one is what your day is filled with, whether it's projects or tasks. I've been really busy this past year, and it is so easy when somebody says, can you do Friday at 9 a.m? And you look in your diary and you say, yep, that day's wide open. Absolutely, get booked in for your whole day to be filled with other people's lives and other people's priorities and other people's needs. It's really important to be empathetic and to be available as a coach, as a service provider. But what's more important than any of that is that you are continuing to grow and evolve, and that you find balance between their needs, their projects, and your needs and your projects. I think sometimes in life where people feel like they're being overtaken, or it doesn't feel fair, or it doesn't feel worth it, is because they've given their whole lives over to other people's needs, feelings, priorities, and quite often over to other people's lack of ability to plan. Hey Lisa, sorry this is last minute. Hey Lisa, sorry I'm just sending you this now. Don't be sorry, just you're not going to get a reply today because I'm filming today, or I'm back to back on coaching calls today. So playing small would be waking up, going into your inbox and going, that's my agenda for the day. Playing small would be responding to everything that comes into you and using that as a way of planning your agenda or your priorities. Playing big would be going right back to the beginning and saying, what are the big projects that I've got to plot in my life? And you've got to open up your diary for the next 12 months and maybe even the next few years and plot and allocate time to reflect your priorities. Because I know if you say to me, I want to be a writer, I want to be a speaker, I want to be a coach, I don't have to ask you any questions about it. The fastest way I would know if you were going to pull that off or not would be if I said, show me your diary. And if you showed me a diary filled with white space, I probably know you're not going to pull it off. And if you open a diary and your diary's filled, I'm here, I'm there, look at all these cool things I'm doing, Lisa, I also know you're not going to pull it off. The people who pull it off are the people who allocate the time to do all of the messy work. Sometimes when I'm sitting down to write a chapter, the first 2 hours is just garbage. And I'm like, oh my God, I actually can't write. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And I keep going. And in minute 46, there's a line, an idea, a story. Take a little break, come back and I build on it. Next day I come back and I build on it. It isn't all about productivity. Projects over actions are not about productivity. I think actions, waking up and saying, what's on my list today? What's in my diary today? What have I got to do today? That's about productivity. It's about how much can I get done? How much of this list? Tick, tick, tick. I had 6 calls today. I replied to all my emails. I paid all my invoices. Tick, tick, tick. Feels great. Hello, dopamine city. But projects is more about the overall deliverable, the overall outcome. And in this case, the overall outcome would be, can I write a good chapter? No, you can't. You can probably spend 5 hours writing a naff chapter, and in and amongst it, you will produce a good chapter as an outcome. But if you're not willing to sit in the pain and the discomfort of the mess, you'll never get to the big outcome. So playing small is waking up and going, what do I need to do? What's on my list today? What are my priorities even? What are my tasks? All of that is playing small. That compounded over a decade is not what you want. Playing big is to say, I've got a really big, awful task, project, outcome to deliver this week, this month, this quarter. Let me allocate the time in my diary. Let me do some thinking and planning. And let me make sure there's ample time to actually sit down and go through all of the mess in order to get the gem. It's not about the mess. It's not about the time wasted, or it's not wasted, but the time spent going around the houses to get to the answer. It's all about the outcome. So in this sense, it's not about being productive minute to minute. It's about producing a really good quality piece of output, a piece of art that you can use in the world, that you can build on, but you're not going to get it by ticking things off a list. Playing big is the big project, the big outcome. Playing small is ticking things off your list day to day. So again, reflect. If I was to ask you, what are the big projects in your life right now? What are you working on? Is it a chapter? Is it a TEDx? Is it a speaker reel? Is it a new coaching program? And can you objectively say that you've allocated time for it? Not just time to be productive and to produce it, but the thinking time, the chaos time, the mess time, the failure time. Is it in your diary? On the other side of the coin, think on a day-to-day basis, how much of your time is spent responding to people and reacting to things versus creating and directing your own life. So now you know. That's the difference between playing small and playing big. In the comments below, let me know what your version of playing big is. Make a commitment. Let's hold you to it. So reflect. What is this play?